Hey everyone, this is Mario again, coming at you with another movie review. Today's review is of a movie that I saw in theaters earlier today with my buddy Jeff. And it, of course, is the sequel to the film that I reviewed last time. It is Expendables 2. You see there's my movie ticket that I went to go see the movie. It says Expendables, but, you know, there's supposed to be a 2 in there. But anyway, of course. Now, before I get into the review, I bet people are going to wonder right off the bat, yay or nay on this film. Now, the reason I bring that up is because, unlike the first film, Sylvester Stallone is not directing. Instead, the movie is being directed by Simon West. Now, of course, I know a couple of my buddies were kind of, you know, hesitant. I wouldn't say hesitant. We're kind of worried about this because of some of the other stuff he's directed. Like, he directed... his first film, of course, was Con Air, a good film. General's Daughter, I haven't heard much about, and I got it over there. I'll give it a watch one day. He also directed Lara Croft Tomb Raider, which I remember actually having fun with that movie when I saw it in theaters. I need to give it another watch one day. But he also directed the When a Stranger Calls remake and The Mechanic, which I hear The Mechanic has a lot of shaky cam action scenes in it, though. So I can see why my friends would be worried. But I have to say, first off, I'll have to say with Simon West directing, if he actually directed this movie, because there is the possibility that Stallone maybe ghost directed it and had just Simon West in there just to use the name, but I think more than likely, from what I remember about Con Air, I think he directed it. And if that's the case, Simon West, if you do any more action movies, you actually gotta get freaking cinematographers who won't do this with the camera. Who won't go against orders, that's all I'm gonna say. Because the camera is stationary for most of the time, and if it does move, it's not like shaky cam, it's a pan, which is what you should do. But anyway, I guess from that you can already tell that I enjoyed the movie. In the words of Sylvester Stallone and Jason Statham himself, boom-le, 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 boom! Yeah. Now I guess you guys want to know what the plot of the movie is first. The plot of the movie is that we got our team, the Expendables. The movie opens up with a pretty good action sequence where they are going in to save this Chinese billionaire, which of course that's the scene we see in the trailer, you know, with the little thing with the battering ram vehicle that has knock knock written on the side. And this is actually where we see Arnold's first part in the movie. I'm not going to spoil it, but let's just say that one scene we see with him and Terry Crews, that's where that is. Eventually they get out of there with the guy, and later on they're confronted by Mr. Church, who gives them a simple job, which is to go into Europe, I think it's Eastern Europe, and find this plane that crashed and retrieve something from the safe. Now, because of how the safe is set up, of how the code will change every 128 seconds, they need to take someone with them who can crack the code. And of course, this is our female character in the movie, and in case you're wondering, I'm scouting down the thing on Wikipedia to see if I can find the actors on here. Oh, Yu Nan is the actress. She plays Maggie Chan. I think you can tell where the name might be a little tribute to. The last name is probably a tribute to Jackie Chan, but that's just me guessing. And her job basically is to crack the code, but you could tell as the movie goes on, and also just based on some of the stuff she says, that she can handle herself if crap goes down, and she's right. Anyway, they make it to the crash scene, they manage to get something out, and then they're ambushed by our villain, Jean Vilain, played by Jean-Claude Van Damme, who, of course, steals the plans, and he murders one of the Expendables. I'm not going to state who it is, though, but let's just say who it was kind of surprised me a little bit. And just so you guys know, no, it's not Jet Li. Jet Li does not die. The reason that we see him hardly in the trailers is because his character is in China for most of the movie. I'm not going to spoil why, but let's just say Jet Li doesn't die. And of course, it's not Mickey Rourke like we first said, but it is kind of sad, and it does set up for them for that whole thing we see Sly say in the trailer, "Track him, find him, kill him." It's because of that. And now, of course, because of this, they got to track down Jean and his gang of mercenaries, I guess you could say, and stop him from getting his hands on 50 tons of it's 5 tons, I think, of weapons-grade plutonium that the Soviets stored during the Cold War. Because that's what they're after. That's not really much of a spoiler. It's mentioned loosely in the trailer. And of course, you can guess a lot of action sequences are going to go down. Now, which the action sequences, I'll say, they are very well shot. I mean, I noticed some CGI in points, like there's a couple times you can see it's like an obvious CGI helicopter, but what happens to the helicopter, I can see why, you know, to save money, use CGI. But I also, it's hard to tell, but I think I did see blood squibs. I know there was some minor CGI blood, but not as much as in the first film, or at least I noticed. So maybe upon subsequent watching I'll notice more, but it looks like they did use blood squibs that part. And of course, like I mentioned before, the camera only panned. It didn't like go up and down, you know, shaky cam BS during the action sequences, which I appreciated. And the movie, like the first movie, it knows what it is. And it actually includes a lot more tongue-in-cheek references to some of the actors and stuff, like with Arnold and stuff, they have a little line, there's a line, you know, "You're terminated." "I don't think so." Then later on in that movie where we see Bruce Willis with Arnold, there's a little bit of dialogue. Arnold looks at Bruce, "I'll be back." "You've been back enough. I'll be back. Yippee-ki-yay." And then of course, during the ending fight when Chuck Norris's character shows up, Arnold looks at him and goes, "Who's going to show up next, Rambo?" And the whole theater laughed at that, and stuff like that. And even Chuck Norris's intro into the movie is funny, because a bunch of people blow up, and then all of a sudden they notice he's there, and then all of a sudden the music, now, and then of course some of the dialogue with him making reference to the, I think it's kind of making reference to the Chuck Norris toughest guy in the world jokes that they always do. And also, you know, that lone wolf mentality some people seem to associate with him. They make fun of it. With him, there was a funny line of dialogue involving a cobra. "Heard you got bit by a king cobra." "Yeah, I did. And after 5 agonizing days of pain, the cobra finally died." I know I'm not doing it as well, but it's just the charm of the movie. There's like you can tell from that there's humor in the movie, but it's humor. Its heart is in the right place, I guess you could say. Now on to the actors. Stallone as Barney Ross, he does a very good job, just as good as he did in the first movie. Character development, well, not really that much. There's a little bit of character development, but where you can kind of see that he doesn't like when the younger members of the team die or something, and how he thinks that out of any of the members probably he should deserve to die. And also you could tell that it goes into a little detail of why he doesn't really get close to many other people outside of some of his friends on the team, because he doesn't want them to die or something. I guess you could tell he's an interesting character in that. It makes you wonder what all he's been through during his life. Lee Christmas, his character is developed a little bit. We find out he's actually back with that girl from the first movie, and that they're actually engaged now. They even actually make reference to the fact she cheated on him in the first movie. "You know she cheated on you, man. It was a half cheat," and stuff like that. And then of course Stallone's always, the character Barney's always busting his balls about him, like whenever the phone rings, like, "Hello, darling. Hello, darling." Stuff like that. And then of course Lee is always making little jabs at Barney, like, "I'm gonna stab you one of these days. When I see you again, I'm gonna shoot you in the face." Stuff like that. That's the humor. Jet Li as Yin Yang, for the little bit he's in the movie, does a very good job. Like, he has a very great action sequence where he's fighting against these guys when he's out of ammo, and he's fighting with frying pans against people with knives and guns. It's a very fun action sequence. Dolph Lundgren as Gunnar Jensen. He gets a little bit more character development too. Like, he's not a junkie this time around. He's off the pill or whatever he was on. And they actually go into his backstory. Apparently, he attended MIT before he became an expendable. And also, he's intelligent, so you could tell one of the reasons why they cut him off from the team in the first movie. And from this, he actually does serve some purpose at points, and he also says one of the funnier lines later in the movie. I'm not going to say what it is. Let's just say it involves Chinese. That's all I'm going to say with that. And he does kick some butt this time. Jean-Claude Van Damme is our villain. I have to say, I haven't seen any of his more recent movies other than this, so I don't know how he's stone-faced in them, but let's just say, if you guys think he's stone-faced in this movie, I didn't notice it, because as the villain, I think if he was stone-faced, it kind of fit it. I mean, his acting performance wasn't as good as, let's say, Hard Target, where he's the hero, but it suits him, it's suitable as the villain. He doesn't really have as much screen time as the villains from the first movie did, but it's kind of, I think, fits it more that you're trying to root more for the heroes, and what the villain's done already is despicable enough that that the few times we do see him, that it's just adding more to it. But I like it, and I like his fight scene with Sly at the end. It could have gone on for a little bit longer, but it was pretty good. And he does it, and hard to tell if he used a stunt double or not, but as we see in the trailer, Van Damme does do his famous jump kick, and he also does other kicks and stuff. Chuck Norris, for the brief part he's in the movie, does a pretty good job. His character's name is Booker, which from what I understand is a homage to one of his early characters. I think the movie Good Guys Wear Black. Like I've already mentioned, there's some humor involving his character, the lone wolf. He does kick a lot of butt, though, in the movie for the scenes he's in. I mean, he kills a bunch of people by himself without even being spotted. Bruce Willis's Church. During the first couple scenes he's in, he's kind of like how he was in the first movie, but near the end there's a little bit, maybe a little tiny bit of John McClane in him, but it's mostly because I think the heat of the moment, you know, shooting at people, like, you've been backing up, I'll be back, stuff like that. And then of course that stuff scene we've seen with the mini car, my shoe is bigger than this car, just shoot something, something like that. That's probably how Dutch and John McClane would act if they were with each other like that. That's how it is. And then, of course, Arnold, for the brief time he's in the movie, he's good. And one thing I like about this movie is, unlike the first Expendables movie, we actually see Arnold, Sly, and Willis all in the same shot. Like, we see, there's one part where we actually see them all firing in the same frame, which, for an old-school action movie fan, that is their wet dream. You're like, oh yeah, they're kicking butt. And it's just a great shot. Especially since Arnold's using that shotgun, like the same one Terry Crews has. And I noticed it in the comment section of that video uploaded on YouTube, someone saying, why isn't it doing as much damage as Terry Crews did in the first movie? Well, when Terry Crews did all the damage in the first movie, in that hallway, he's in an enclosed area. A shotgun that's going to cause more damage in an enclosed area. And in there, it's not as enclosed, and he's also from a farther distance, so it's not going to be as much damage. Terry Crews, I liked him a little bit more in this movie. He also has a little bit more humor in him, but it's fitting humor. Like one scene where he has some coffee, he's going outside to see something, all of a sudden he sees a bunch of armed guys and comes back inside very nonchalantly. Hey guys, and then he says something and jumps down, and all of a sudden a bunch of bullets come to the wall. I know, that's just one thing, and then a couple other stuff like that scene with Arnold I mentioned earlier. It's just fun, it's just all around funner. Randy Couture, more or less about the same as the first movie. No, not really much character development. They do another ear joke, but it's not as big as in the first movie. Liam Hemsworth, for him being in the movie, does a pretty good job. You can tell he hasn't been with the team that long because he always is saying yes sir and stuff, and you can also tell that's part of his military training. And he does a pretty good job as a sniper. For a third film, I'd like to see them get his brother in the movie. That would be cool to see Thor kicking some butt. Prepare to meet your maker, kid. Does thou mean Stan Lee? Everyone should probably get that joke. Well, let's see if anyone gets where I got it from. Scott Adkins played Jean-Claude Van Damme's right-hand man. He does a pretty good job, and he actually does get into a good fight scene with Statham's character near the end. And it's pretty kind of cool to see Statham finally get a one-on-one fight in this movie. And by the way, how they lead into that whole priest thing with him is actually kind of good, which I'm not going to spoil it, but it was funny. And let's see, read the thing. That's about it. The rest of these actors that do minor roles, they do okay jobs. Apparently, there's a different plane in this movie. Just one thing I want to mention. The score for the movie, like the first movie, is beautiful. And they also use songs well. Like, they have the song The Wanderer in there. It's at a good moment. And there's a couple other songs, like, they had a Little Richard song in there. I don't know which one it is, but it was used in an appropriate moment. And it was pretty good. I think it might have been Long Tong Sally, but I'm not sure. And they didn't have Diamond Eyes in it, which kind of disappointed me. They could have been nice to have it in the trailer, but not the trailer, in the end credits. But it was nice. The use of music was nice. That's about it, I would say. As you can tell, it is a sequel that lives up to the first movie, And it actually has a higher critical mark on Rotten Tomatoes with critics. Right now it has a 64%, which is higher than the 40% for the first movie. With audiences right now it has I think an 80-something%. And right now on IMDb it has an 8.0, which you have to say it deserves that mark. Because even if you were disappointed with the first movie, because I've read some reviews already that people who were disappointed with the first movie enjoy this movie. So this is a sequel that lives up to the original, and I actually think this film is a little bit better than the first movie in some parts, in some ways, like with a little bit more of the humor and stuff. And when I say the first movie, I'm even including the director's cut, which you guys know from my previous review. I like the director's cut a little bit more. But I have to say, I look forward to seeing this movie again, and I can't wait to get this movie in my collection. One thing I will say, though, is I don't know how they could do a director's cut for this movie because it's good enough as it is. If they do, it will probably be less like the Expendables 1 director's cut and more like the Rambo 4 director's cut, which is not good from what I hear. But like I said earlier, Simon West did good job directing if he actually did direct the movie himself. If so, I actually want to see him do more action like this and less like what I hear he did with The Mechanic, even though I haven't seen that movie yet. And I have to say I do like the poster. If I can, I want to get the poster for it, and I like that tagline. Back for war. It's cool. And before I end this, I am rating for this movie like the previous film, 5 out of 5, because I can't really think of anything wrong with the movie. Everything with the movie worked. The humor worked. The things involving the actors worked. It's a movie that knows what it is. The score worked. The action scenes were shot well. I can't really think of any flaws with the movie. I mean, even the people that rate it medium even praising the movie, saying it's a movie that knows what it is. Me, I enjoy movies like that. And it had a budget of $100 million. I see this movie making back its budget and a profit easily. Now, one thing I will say to finish this review off is that the trailer for Schwarzenegger's first solo action movie back actually was attached to the movie. You know that movie, The Last Stand? And I have to say, based on that trailer, I'm looking forward to this movie because it looks like it's going to be a fun Arnold movie. I mean, make it with a little gag about his age after he falls through something. How do you feel? Old. It looks like it's going to be kick-ass. There was also another trailer for Dread, which I'm looking forward to that movie. Forget what the other one was for, but it was for a cop movie with I think Jake Gyllenhaal in it. It looks like it'll be interesting. You know, two cops accidentally bust a cartel thing by mistake, and now the cartel's after them. It looks like it'll be interesting. And like I said, a 5 out of 5. If you're a fan of the first movie or action movies in general, I highly recommend that you check out Expendables 2. And once again, boom la, boom la, boom la, boom!